Hi, in this week's video about sailors and their engines, we meet a young couple and their daughter who started sailing during lockdown in London. They are now on their second boat and their third engine. It's quite a story of courage, adventure and perseverance.
Oh, I'm Nellie.
I'm Oshi.
The boat is a Westerly Ocean Ranger, 38 foot, from 1992.
This is your second boat.
This is our second boat. This is Aileen from Southampton, which is where we picked her up from just over a year ago, right?
January 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe two.
And how did you get into sailing?
How did we get into sailing?
Yeah.
Well, we were locked down in England actually, and in London, the concrete jungle that is London, and we were a bit worried that it might be getting a bit more difficult to travel. And it certainly was that year of 2020, and I had this. I noticed this Italian family tried to escape to Italy on their private plane, but they were sent back from France. And I was like, well, where could we? In what situation in the world would we be now where we'd be free? And I noticed that there were some boaters that were not getting let into land, but they were told they could reprovision and move on. So this sounded like freedom to me, and I thought, you know what, Nelly, we should start sailing. And at first, it seemed like a bit of an outlandish dream. But we got hooked on YouTube videos and watching people who were living this life, and that was our kickstart. It did take us a while to get our first boat. We first went out there looking at boats that we would have had to take a mortgage out for, right? And huge boats we'd never sailed before. We were out looking at these huge boats, and it was just so daunting. And then we thought, what are we doing? We do not know how to sail. The last thing we want to do is put everything we have and more into a boat.
Yeah.
So we scaled down and we saw this advert for another Westerly, which is a 32-foot ketch. And it's for £9,900. It was on eBay. And the ad said, this boat is ready to go to the Atlantic. And then we thought we'd have to go and see it. Quite ready. But we went to see the boat, and then we put down an offer straight away.
Oh, she's a really good boat though. Really solid, old boat, but really, really sturdy, well built, like thick fiberglass, and everything essential was good. The rigging was good. The hull was good. We did get a survey done after we bought the boat, and he said it was a good boat. And worth more than we paid.
Although he said at some point you might need to get a new engine.
Yeah, he said.
What was the engine?
It was a Volvo Penta. I'm not even sure I can remember what Volvo Penta it was. It began with an M, actually. It was a very old one. It was very hard to find the manual.
I think it was a 30 horsepower, 25.
No, it was 25,
25. And then we went for. We had to move the boat from Dorset, where we purchased it, round to Suffolk, which is where we learned to sail on the River Orwell. And that 5 day sail of that journey with a skipper that I'd hired and his mate was my introduction really to sailing those 5 days. So it was really make or break. We spent that summer sailing up and down the river.
Just up and down the river, yeah. Backwards and forwards.
Yeah. A real baptism.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Trying to tap between boats.
Did you use the engine a lot in that boat?
We were mostly trying to learn how to sail,
we
didn't use it an awful lot.
And I just remember that it was such a big deal for us going out to sea. Our first day out at sea was just like a huge deal. And we literally only went out for a couple of hours and came back in. And we're like, wow.
And then from that boat to this boat?
Okay. So we had the boat then, and England was still pretty locked down.
Yeah.
So I think this was 2020, right?
That's correct.
So we were kind of going in and out of lockdowns.
Yeah. And we just really enjoyed it. So we spent as much time as we could on the boat. We filled it with food, and we had a plan to get to the Med, to get to the sunshine. That was our goal, right? And we put together a plan. The two guys that had taught me how to sail and taken me on this 5 days, we really got on. We became friends. And I said to them, I want to get to the Med, and one of them offered to take us, and that we decided between us the best method to do it in the quickest possible way would be to go through the canals of France. So we made a plan. And this time again, Nellie and Kai were going to come and meet us in France, and I was going to make the first bit of the journey myself. So we ventured down, met Nellie and Kai, we ventured down through the canals, and it was, what did we do, about 8 hours motoring a day?
Yeah. Yeah, probably 8 hours. One of the things we did do, when I got on board the boat, I think it was basically the day after or something, is de-lime scaled the water intake.
Yeah.
And that made the engine a lot cooler. Do you remember? Because there was a bit of a overheating. But then it was fine. After that, it seemed like the engine was kind of performing pretty okay for an old engine.
Yeah, well, I never knew that a sailboat engine was capable of going through such a rigorous, time. We use the engine just to get out and just to get back in.
Yeah.
But literally on the canals of France, there's no sail, so you're using the engine all day, every day. And I was really surprised that engines, could go and go and go. And Jeff, my skipper, said this is what engines are for. They're made for big trucks. And they like to be going, and they can just go and go and go and go, and they did. We went one route down, and we got halfway down through France, and we were told we had to go back up through Paris, which we tried to avoid the city. This was fine, so we went back up through Paris and back down, and we got all the way down. We got 3/4 of the way down through France, and now the gearbox went, and we're in this remote village. 1 or 2 hours walk to the supermarket, a journey we did quite a few times. We had a problem with the gearbox, and it turned out we needed some parts. We're in the middle of nowhere. We've got to send the part back to the UK as well. So we ended up waiting in this village for, was it?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Seemed like an eternity. We eventually got the part back, and we got the boat going again. It's quite unbelievable to us. Again, we were like, wow, I can't believe we got this. So happy we've got Jeff on board. We'd never been able to deal with this problem before. It's so technical from our standards. So then we got on. We finally got on. We were really excited, and we had to travel miles and miles back to 8 hours a day motoring through France, and then we finally get so close to the destination.
But we were about 2 days away from Lyon, and Lyon is like then you get onto the Rhone, I think, which goes all the way through to the Med, and so it would have been, that was our we made it moment.
Yeah, it was.
Got there.
It was the final stage, and then we finally got to a place where they said, "No, you can't go forward anymore. The canal's closed. There's not enough water." So we were pretty upset. It was getting closer to winter. It was getting a bit cooler, although France was obviously a lot warmer than it was back in the UK. But there was one final chance to go back up and come back down another route, and we were all quite determined, so back up north we trotted. So we head back up, and just as we got back, a few days from Paris, France went into lockdown, and the lockdown there was quite draconian, so we decided to make a break for Le Havre and get back to the UK. So now we're doing, I think, 12-hour days on the engine, and everything's going fine. We get through the locks, back through Paris, on the route. We get to the very last lock, and we get through the last lock. And now we're
back in tidal waters.
We're back in tidal waters, and it's a straight line to the hub. We get the mast on, and we get back home. And just then we had a problem with the engine, and we had another day to go, or half a day to go, and at this point our skipper Jeff went down and he tried to use the crank to get the engine going, and everything was pretty normal. We had the anchor down. I thought he was just gonna everything was gonna be okay, and then he chopped the top of his thumb off.
He touched the fan belt basically.
We thought, okay, let's get the Volvo Penta guy out. So the Volvo guy comes out, looks at the engine, and he says it's kaput. So we get a quote for a new engine. A new engine was going to be about £8,000-9,000 plus 3,000 to 4,000 to put it in. So, you know, much more than we paid for the boat now. And we were like, oh, maybe this is the end of our sailing journey.
So what we think actually happened to that engine was we did notice the temperature gauge. Something had gone wrong with the temperature gauge, and Jeff tried to fix it when we went before he cut his thumb off, and we think maybe the temperature gauge failed or seized or something, and then obviously the engine overheated, and then was it temperature gauge? Oh, something to do with the temperature, and then where it seized, then that obviously broke the crankshaft and it kept trying to turn.
So it was over. I managed to source a new engine, the same engine, from the UK for about £7,000. And they said they'd get it there in
6,000.
6,000.
Yeah,
Thank you.
cheaper than what they offered us in France.
Yeah, cheaper than the French price. And they said they'd get there in a couple of weeks, a week or so.
It was quick.
Yeah.
From when we realised, it was quick.
Yeah. So we wanted to get all of our stuff home. We didn't want to abandon the boat. It was a great boat. We got used to it, and the only downside was the engine. So a new engine made a great boat. So, you know, a few weeks getting that perfectly aligned, getting everything sorted, and we were off. Brand new engine. This was interesting. Our old 1979 boat, we had a brand new engine, which was fun. Got back to Le Havre, got the mast back up, fixed the sail, back to the Isle of Wight. Nellie nearly given up in France. There was a moment where she was like, "It's damp, I'm cold, I want to go home." So she'd had that moment.
So this boat didn't have a heater or a shower or any of those sorts of nice luxuries.
Yeah, and it was a small boat, so it was quite a confined space, so I can understand. But Nellie had kind of had enough. But for some reason I'd convinced her to come back to the boat with me after a month at her parents'. Maybe she wanted to get, I don't know. You know, somehow she came back to the boat with me. But when we got back to the boat now, it was so damp. My friend had put the cushions in storage, so we had no cushions, not enough covers. It really smelled. So the first night we got back to the Isle of Wight, we went to stay at an Airbnb. It was that bad, and it's so cold. The next day we just went to the supermarket and bought the biggest duvets we could find, and went back to the boat. And here we were, slightly uncomfortable with a huge list of things we needed to do, which were, you know, we had our first
which we did
experience.
start doing. We did start doing all the things that we were going to do.
Yeah, we did some jobs on the boat, changed the mast light to an LED, but the core things that we really needed at that point were a heater, a hot water calorifier so we could get hot water, and some kind of auto steering. So at the end of the day, this is all quite a lot of money again to put into this old boat. At which point we did start looking at other boats, and we knew what we wanted and that we were happy with a westerly, and we couldn't actually see boats at the time because they weren't doing viewings. But I'd seen this westerly, this boat online, and it looked like it was in quite good condition. And obviously, the new priority was, well, we're not going through that again. If we buy a new boat, we're going to get an engine that works, and so this was a top priority for us. And luckily for us, we'd seen this boat which had 50 hours or 100 hours on the engine, and they had been kept in relatively good condition. So and I had a word with the vendor, and he sent us his list of maintenance, the work he'd carried out, his logbook, and this was pretty extensive, so we could really tell that this guy had cared about his upkeep of the boat. And that was enough for us to purchase the boat, having not seen it, not done a survey, to put in an offer. Yeah, we put a cheeky offer based on the fact we couldn't see, and he wouldn't accept that. So you know, there's a few things led us to think. A few things led us to think that this could be the boat for us. And of course, I ticked all the boxes. Had the calorifier, had the heater, had the self-steering. I moved on board. And our life changed again. We felt a lot more confident about now going on a journey. It was more like a very, very small home to us than something that was external from our home. This could become a home for us. And then we spent a year or whatever getting this boat together, getting ourselves together.
10 months, yeah.
Yeah, getting more practice. See, and we prepared the boat. and we're in the Isle of Wight, where there's a lot of day sailors. You know, most people just go across to
And lots of races.
Yeah, races, or all the cruises will go to France for the weekend or whatever. But we'd often be saying to people, "Oh yeah, we're going to Tanzania. We're going to Tanzania." And then after a few months, it became a running joke. "Oh, you still going to Tanzania?" Yeah. And even we didn't believe it, because obviously we'd never done anything like that before, so we couldn't quite believe that's what we were doing. And we hired a skipper. I did a Skype interview before we brought him on board. He came down for a month. We got on. We had a great month, and we felt quite confident that we could go together. And then we left on our journey.
He was good with Kaya too.
You have to be, obviously, it was very important that whoever was coming with us was good, hanging out with our daughter.
With kids, yeah.
And then we spent about 6 months going through the Med, coming down the Suez Canal. We decided to potentially, someone suggested that we stopped at the Seychelles for a couple of weeks. Sounds like a great idea. Why not? And it was so beautiful. When we got there, we ended up staying there for 6 months. We thought let's carry on to our destination. We have a few things that we said we'd do here in Tanzania. And we left there a few weeks ago, and we did our first passage together as a family, just the 3 of us. We made it here in 8 to 10 days. It was a lovely journey, perfect weather.
Yeah, great weather.
Perfect sail. And then we've been now in Tanga for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so what have we done on this engine? We just did a full service on this engine, but we did in the Seychelles. And in that time, we found that there was water in the gearbox, oil. So then we had to take the boat out of the water, drain all the oil, replace the shaft seals, and fill it back up with oil again. There's no water in the gearbox the last time I checked. But that's all we've had to do with this engine. It's been good.
And comparing this dream that you had when you were in lockdown in London to the reality of now your liveaboard cruises, just...
It's exactly as we planned it. We manifested it. The reason I'd said to myself in London, if I'm ever in this type of situation before in terms of a lockdown, I'm going to be somewhere like the Seychelles. Spending 6 months in the Seychelles is like having a 2-week dream holiday on repeat.
For 6 months, yeah.
For 6 months. And then, so it's just aligned completely with what we were looking for in terms of freedom, sunshine and nature. So we knew what we wanted.
What happened to the first boat?
The first boat, now we just sold the first boat. We had this great dream of, we put a new engine in. It was a great boat before. Let's sell it for... Let's make a profit. Let's add the 7 to the 9 that we paid, and that's 16. Let's sell it for 17,000. And we put quite a bit of money. You do the washboards, you replace the windows,
the LED lights.
The LED lights. You improve the boat. And it was on. We didn't do much. Our ad was terrible. And by the time we hadn't sold it for about 4 or 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. Then by the time we thought, okay, let's completely review the ad. And let's improve it. We put it out on the Westerly Owners group, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, you can change this, you can change that." We changed the ad, and then we thought, well, let's just drop the price, and we took it down. Let's not be greedy. How much was the experience worth of us getting into sailing and improving it? So we dropped it by a few thousand, and we sold it pretty much immediately. We really wanted to give it to a friend because it was we knew we'd feel really confident if someone said, "Am I going to be safe in this boat?" Yes, you're going to be safe. Yes, the engine's not going to stop working.
Yeah, and the ring is cool, I think, now.
But in the end, we did sell it to a nice guy, and he's living on there, so he's making a great use of it.
Yeah,
so
and I think he's going to really look. I think he's going to do. He said that there's loads of jobs on that boat that maybe we wouldn't have even bothered doing, but he's going to do all of them.
Oh, it's going to be a classic boat.
I think he's going to really look after him.
Be a lovely
so we're happy
boat.
that it's gone to somebody who is going to take care of her.
Yeah.
And what about the general learning curve? I mean, usually most people when they start, it's very daunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was still a bit daunted about doing our last passage, that obviously was the first one that we did on our own. I mean, I knew we were going to be fine, and the boat's always going to get there, basically. But I think one of the biggest learning curves for me was you start to trust the boat, because I don't know, when we first started sailing, I wasn't like, you're just not used to everything, right? I mean, you're not used to it moving all the time, and then eventually you just kind of realise that the boat's sort of got your back as long as you kind of basically do as much of the right things as you can.
The great thing is that like your life is on the line. Like the sailing is about taking your life into your own hands. So for this reason, you're quite motivated to learn everything that you need to learn. So the basics you're gonna go into quite thoroughly, and it's good to have good people around you that you can just ask questions to. People who don't mind if you ask stupid questions. Everyone had to start somewhere. Obviously, we're very envious of people that have been sailing all their lives, and it's just second nature to them, which is what we want to give to our daughter, which is important. Of course, she's going to be fantastic. It was great learning. We never didn't get scared. We're still scared, obviously. We should be. If you're taking your life into your hands, you should be worried, and this worry that is a protector of yourself. Another thing that's great is that, it's like anything. Sometimes you have to go through problems to really learn from them. You have to go through them. So we've had the sail come down, we've lost an anchor, we've lost an engine. These are not huge, they were never super dangerous things we've touched. We've never been in really, really bad weather, but we are learning all the time, and it's just great that some of these things have happened. So we feel better. I just feel that we'll always be learning, but that's why we're here. We had to do a big adventure. We had to get ourselves to the other side of the world, and it really has just started for us. It was our first passage, so for us it is just the beginning.
Yeah.
And what will you say to somebody else who is thinking, who's got that dream of this, I'm going to sail to Tanzania or
I mean...
Yeah, buy a good, not too expensive boat and just start going.
Yeah, just follow that dream.
Yeah. I mean ideally, because we could have done it with the first boat.
Sure.
So ideally, if you can get a boat to start off with, you can actually do
any boat. Yeah, you can do it with any boat. And you do that, and it's like anything, just get started. Just get started. That's what I would say to anyone. And as I said it to all, people in the Seychelles who didn't sail, I'd be like, you just get a small boat.
Yeah.
Because it just opens up the world to you,
And you see so many cool things, like, whales and the dolphins and the stars and the shooting stars and the ocean glowing at night and all that cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing quite like it.
Great.
And things just happen quickly. Like we're just an idea for us, and we're quite stubborn, or we're one track minded. If you get onto something, you have to pursue it. There's a lot of things you have to overcome. You just go down the road. It's like whatever you're doing in life, whatever your dream is, you just need to pursue it. And we got to the Seychelles, and we thought we weren't quite ready to do a service ourselves, and we told it's a good idea to get a service done by a professional and film it, so you can really see everything being done. So we filmed our first service. The toughest part seemed to be emptying the locker and getting down the back and twisting out the filter on the back of the engine. Now we've
exactly,
got
I know.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I was saying, it was like it's quite funny to open up Marine Diesel Basics, and it's got these checks that you should be doing in your engine. Many of them are daily, few are weekly, and then you got your monthly checks, and of course none of these we're doing. So this is how I knew this was the book that we needed.
Yeah. Plus it's got pictures, so we can you can't go wrong.
Oh, plus it's like diesel engines for dummies, right?
Yeah.
So this is exactly what we need. Because you're more experienced sailor or engineer, I call them, can work from your workshop manual. But just the people who say to me, "I'll just get the workshop manual and it'd be a piece of cake." It's just...
It's a bit like reading Chinese sometimes,
Absolutely.
I think. Yeah, I don't know. For me, anyway.
The general manual is a bit much for me to understand.
Because we have no experience whatsoever with engines. Like, not even from, how some people come and they're like, "Oh, well, I've not done boats, but I used to do motorbikes," and nothing at all.
Yeah.
So it's kind of really, really been from scratch.
Yeah. So the positioning of the book is really good for us. It's like, what is an impeller? What is it for? These are the kind of questions we would ask, and I now feel a little bit more confident.
Good. Yeah. Great. Super. Isn't that a great story of how they're creating a brand new life for themselves and their daughter? Thanks for joining us, and see you next time. And until then, I wish you fair winds and a reliable diesel.